Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Obviously, with the health update and the TTK update here in Warzone Season 4, we have an overall much slower TTK. Every single weapon in the game takes a few extra shots to kill now, but there's still a handful of weapons that have very fast time to kills, all things considered, right? By comparison to everything else now post-update. And today, we are breaking down those top 5 fastest TTK weapons, starting first with, conveniently enough, one of our brand new guns for Season 4, the Tempus Razorback. This is actually a setup that I featured in my close range meta video because this thing is a very versatile rifle, but it really thrives in the close to mid range. It's really more of an AR SMG hybrid when you build it out correctly to be super aggressive. And in that range, it's very, very good. Stats today via sim.gg and true game data, sort of a mix and match of each of this. So the two best sources for all the in-game stats, right? And the Razorback, roughly at 28 meters, has a 790 millisecond TTK, which by comparison is very quick with other rifles, especially in that range, but even other SMGs as well. This setup, like I said, though, really focused on speed and aggression. I do have the 60 round extended mag on here. Despite being the largest magazine and technically having the biggest slowdown, we have so many other mobility based attachments that you can get by with using this just fine. I also go for the ERG X1 rear grip. This does help out with some control. Then I just tune for the inverse of better mobility. So you're kind of getting some mobility and some control out of this all in one. Behind the face cam here, I've got the LTX Eclipse comb. This is for ADS and sprint to fire, and I tune for even better mobility. The Olay laser on here as well for the better ADS and sprint to fire. Then lastly, for some control, I go straight up for the Komodo Heavy. This only focuses on horizontal bounce, which just makes the recoil pattern a lot more predictable because it's mainly going to be vertical, so it's just way easier to control. Whether you're fighting at 10 meters, 30 meters, where this thing really thrives, as mentioned, doesn't matter. This is a really solid rifle, sort of SMG hybrid that can and will fry. Now, surprise, surprise, the new battle pass weapons are good. They're so good, in fact, that the ISO 45 is also on the list here today for having one of the fastest TTKs in the game. Up close, this thing is nuts. It's not like a huge gap between this and all the other SMGs, but it's enough to make this be the standout choice. At roughly 20 meters, we're looking at an 895 millisecond TTK. Most of the other subs at that range are into the second long TTKs, right? They're looking at, 10, 25, 1100 almost. This thing is very good and has a much more noticeable initial damage range and first couple of damage ranges, really, compared to the other subs. This thing is ridiculously good. I'm still sticking with my most consistent setup here. You can make some tweaks though if you wanted to. 45 round drum extended mag though is pretty much a must have. The damage per mag here is a little bit lower than some other subs, so that is something to take note of, but pure TTK, it's nuts. We got the sheer rear grip, better ADS and sprint to fire tunes to match that. The cheetah stock gives you all the mobility bonuses in the world. Sprint speed, ADS speed, strafe speed, crouch speed. Thing is ridiculous. We also got 7mm laser on here yet again. And then I go for the KT85 compensator. Mainly helps vertical, gives you some horizontal though as well, just to make it a bit more consistent in those 15, 25, 35 meter gunfights. That said, if you don't love the optic, you could always drop the muzzle for, a red dot or a blue dot or something. If you wanted to use overpressured ammo, that could be a good choice as well. You can certainly mess around with various builds here. They're all going to be good though, just because the base weapon of the ISO 45 is honestly insane. Another absolute beast that quite frankly has been a beast since day one, but is even more of a standout now post update, is the RAAL. We've talked about this thing in our top TTK videos numerous times now. From day one, this thing has been an absolute menace, all right, in Warzone 2. If you land your shots with this thing, it's got a lot of recoil, but if you land your shots, no one stands a chance. Post health update, no one still stands a chance. We're looking at 70 meters, 809 millisecond TTK roughly. Keep in mind, that's 100% accurate. Your accuracy will change these values. You're never going to hit this every single gunfight, but statistically, that is wildly fast for what this TTK is now with the health increase. Bit of a different setup here that you can mess around with. AMOT V4 though is always pretty standard for this dive position faster ADS. I go for the Rhino barrel, helps out with control, mainly gives you a little bit of extra velocity, which is nice because we're not using high velocity on this setup. I go for the Nil Sound 90 suppressor. This is just straight up better velocity and range. If you wanted to upgrade to a heavier suppressor for some added control, you could do that as well. You could even run a compensator as well if you wanted to. You could definitely mess around with that. Doing underbarrel here is going to be very clutch, going to help out a lot with stability and general recoil steadiness, so it's going to make the weapon a lot easier to use. Then recently I've actually changed out the Stip 40 rear grip, which is still a perfectly fine attachment. If you want even more control, you could absolutely run that, but I've switched that out for the 50 round mag instead of the 100 round mag, because this is actually going to speed up the weapon quite a bit and make it more aggressive. One of the huge downsides of the RAAL is how painfully slow it is with everything but taking out enemies, right? ADS, movement speed, reload, it's all abysmal. This helps out a lot with that and makes it a lot more aggressive. So something to take note of there that could really make this weapon feel more towards an aggressive play style, I guess. If that's what you're looking for, you can definitely help this gun out a lot in that area. By the way, as we are going through all these insane TTK loadouts here today, if you guys are new here or if you have not already subscribed yet, feel free to hit that sub button, turn on those post notifications. That way you'll always know whenever I post a new video breaking down new updates, patch notes, the meta. It's gonna be right here every single day. And if you guys enjoy this video, if you find it helpful at all, let me know by dropping a like on it as well. It really does help grow the channel. Now this is a bit of an interesting spot because the MX9 technically does have one of the best TTKs in the game for its respective area, right? At 24 meters, which is kind of like mid-range almost for SMGs, it's got a 942 millisecond TTK. That's pretty impressive if you were to look at this and compare it versus a lot of other meta subs. The problem is that this is a very niche weapon. Beyond solos right now, it's really not all that usable, but objectively, it is one of the best TTK guns. So as far as this setup goes, the MX9 is so easy to use that you can focus mainly on mobility. That said, the 32 round extended mag is the max, and you have to be running this because this is what's going to make the weapon the best. If this was 45, we'd be having a serious conversation about how the MX9 could be the best SMG in the game, but alas, here we are. Q900 rear grip, better ADS and sprint to fire. Just behind the face cam, I've got the C11 Riser, better ADS and sprint to fire as well. I don't like any of the AUG platform iron sights, so I go for the basic blue dot here. Clean. Obviously perfect for the close range fights, furthest eye position, faster ADS. Then lastly, I go for the S901 barrel. Helps extend that additional damage range even more, which is nice to see. Also, though, helps out with movement speed as well, so you're being even more aggressive with this on there. I also tune that for better mobility. So this thing ends up flying and frying. I wish it wasn't so niche and pretty much just limited to solos now, but it is a very impressive gun for what it is. And then lastly, here we've got the SO14. This thing is a beast as well, especially in the mid-range. It's difficult to use though. Here we actually have sort of a variety TTK because it depends on if you're using this in semi-auto or full auto, but roughly at 50 meters and closer, you're gonna be looking at anywhere between a 730 and 800 millisecond TTK, again, depending on your accuracy and what fire mode you have this gun in. But safe to say, if you're landing shots with this thing, there's not much that's going to be able to outgun it. The problem is landing your shots because the recoil here, especially in full auto, which is where I mainly like to use it, can be rough. That said, this setup is, you know, versatile enough to be flipped back and forth semi-auto, full auto. AMOT V4 on here as always. 50 round drums, so you don't have to worry about reloading. Now, I have been messing around with high velocity on here. It's nice to have that increased like consistency in the mid to long range and have that hit reg feel better. That said, the control with this setup straight up is still something you got to work on. So if you wanted to, you could maybe drop high velocity, add on something like the Boremaster barrel for the better control. You can't add a rear grip here in this case right now, but it's something that you might want to take note of. If you can focus on the control a little bit more, you could swap out high velocity for something else in that regard. I got the lock grip precision on here. As we know, this attacks just straight up recoil control, not so much stability like a Ripper or an Edge would, but this will help out with that insane bounce that this weapon does have. Then lastly, Sack and Tread 40, just a basic compensator, helping out with vertical and horizontal as well. So the setup attacks a lot of the recoil. It still is something that you have to work to manage, but you master this gun and it is nuts, just straight up how it is. That being said, that is going to wrap things up for this one. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know by dropping a like on it. And if you're new here, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on those post notifications to always stay up to date with MW2, Warzone 2, and DMZ. But once again, thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.